A tourist crossed the line, mocking the guardsman, confident that he could do anything he wanted. But one step from the guardsman shocked everyone and turned this day into an unforgettable lesson. It was one of those days in London where the air carried a sense of celebration. The sun warmly bathed the square in front of Buckingham Palace, and tourists swarmed it like ants around a sugary treat. Cameras clicked, children laughed, and adults did their best to capture the still royal guards, as if they were not living men but decorations in a puppet show. Among this bustling crowd stood Stephen, an American tourist visiting the UK with his family. Tall, with a backward baseball cap and an unshakable confidence in his own superiority, he stared at the guards with the expression of someone already plotting how to make them part of his fun. "Guys, look! They're like statues!" he loudly declared, winking at his friends. "I'll bet you $10 I can make this guy move." The crowd froze. Some people were already pulling out their phones, anticipating a viral video. After all, who hasn't seen those clips? Tourist-provoking guards had always been internet gold. With a grin that made others want to turn away, Stephen took his first step over the white line, the very line that is strictly forbidden to cross. Naturally, he paid no attention to the warning signs. "Hey man, smile! You're here to entertain the tourists, right?" he shouted, folding his arms across his chest, as if that gave him extra authority to mock. The guardsman stood motionless, like an ancient statue carved from stone. His red tunic and tall bearskin hat gave him a regal appearance, sharply contrasting with the tourist's arrogance. But this didn't stop Stephen. He moved even closer, nearly touching the guardsman's shoulder. "So, bro, you give up yet?" he sneered, peering into the soldier's face, hoping to catch even the faintest flicker of emotion. "But if you think the guardsman was ready to give in to this absurdity, you don't understand the Royal Guard. They don't break, even when others break their own dignity, like Stephen was doing." The crowd began murmuring. Someone whispered, "Seriously? Doesn't he feel ashamed?" Others, however, giggled, clearly egging Stephen on. But the glare from an older couple standing off to the side was full of disapproval. The woman quietly remarked to her husband, "What a disgrace. Doesn't he realize these are real soldiers, not an amusement attraction?" Stephen, of course, heard none of this. He was too busy creating a show he was sure would make him a TikTok star. The guardsman remained silent. But if you could look into his thoughts, you'd feel the weight of exhaustion and irritation he carried with nearly superhuman composure. After all, tourists like Stephen came every day with the same question: will he break? In that moment, nature itself seemed to pause. Even the wind stopped, and the crowd held its breath. Everyone knew the moment of truth was near. Stephen, feeling the crowd's attention, took it as applause. Another minute and he might have started bowing, as if on stage. His smug smile was so wide it could have blinded someone, even without the sun. He loved being the center of attention and savored every second. "Hey man, smile! Don't they pay you for this?" he yelled, trying to outshout the murmuring crowd. The crowd came alive. Some laughed, some shook their heads in disapproval. A woman nearby muttered angrily to her companion, "This is appalling! They're real soldiers, not clowns." But Stephen didn't care. In his mind, he was a star. His friends egged him on, phones out and ready. "Go, bro! This'll totally hit 1,000,000 views." Stephen went further. He stretched out his hand, slowly reaching for the guardsman's hat. At that moment, the situation shifted. "Stay behind the line!" the guardsman shouted, loud and commanding. It was like a lightning bolt cutting through the air. His voice was sharp and powerful, as though it wasn't a man, but British history itself, reminding everyone of the rules. Stephen nearly dropped his phone in shock. His face contorted with surprise and irritation, while the crowd erupted in applause. "Wow! He spoke!" someone whispered, awe in their voice. But for Stephen, it wasn't over. His bruised ego demanded a comeback. Smirking, he picked up a plastic water bottle and, staring directly into the guardsman's eyes, lifted it over his uniform. "What if I pour this on him? Will he still stay quiet?" he muttered with mock defiance. The crowd gasped. Even children who'd been running around moments ago froze, sensing the tension in the air. The guardsman, who had stood motionless until now, suddenly moved. His sharp step forward was like thunder splitting the silence. The saber at his waist gleamed under the sun, a reminder that this was no decorative prop, but a symbol of honor and discipline. Stephen recoiled, dropping the bottle. His self-assurance vanished so quickly it was as if it had never been there. The crowd fell silent, broken only by the distant hum of traffic. "Stay behind the line!" the guardsman repeated, his voice booming with authority. The crowd came alive. Some applauded, others cheered. "Now that's real service!" From the crowd stepped an elderly man, slow but steady in his movement, his chest adorned with a modest medal, a Wabawutu veteran. "Young man, you should be ashamed!" His voice was firm, yet calm. "This soldier represents something you'll never understand: discipline, honor, and tradition." Stephen stood there, head lowered, his confidence shattered. Stephen slouched and slipped away into the crowd. The phones that had eagerly recorded everything now lowered, as even his friends fell silent, embarrassed. No one laughed anymore. The guardsman, adjusting his bearskin hat, resumed his position. His unwavering posture was no longer seen as mere protocol. It was dignity, a living symbol of tradition. The videos, of course, appeared online. But instead of fame, Stephen faced criticism. How can you disrespect someone like that? The guardsman is a hero. Stephen's just a disgrace. The crowd slowly dispersed, but they left with a shared understanding. That day was more than a clash between a tourist and a guardsman. It was a lesson, a reminder that in a chaotic world, respect and honor still matter. And you? Don't you feel a sense of pride for someone who stood tall, unwavering in the face of disrespect? Because sometimes dignity speaks louder than words.